A lot of transactions today with the MLB trading deadline. We'll recap the major league aspect of the trade deadline with some strategy next on Beat the Shift. And welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me, as always, is Ruvain Guy. What's going on, Ruvain?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Today is August the 3rd, a Monday, and we are a couple of hours after the trade deadline. The two of us could only do the show tonight, as opposed to later in the week. So we figured let's just do a trade deadline recap. We usually don't do a lot of reaction shows, but felt like the right thing to do. What's your overall thoughts on the day? A lot of Fast and Furious stuff coming in for today, right?
I think it was very, very crazy. There's some teams trading people away, but also bringing people back. It was just a very different trade deadline. I had a different feel, and I do think that the lockout looming had a little bit something to do with it. And our Mets, they made a bunch of trades. Do you know how many players they traded away?
Something like 8?
I think they traded away 9 players during the course of the last couple of days, and they acquired 13 different prospects. Now, if our listeners know us, they really know that we're not great with the prospect aspect, so I think we're just going to try to concentrate on the deals that were done of Major League talent and talk a little bit about playing time, talk about how they're going to affect each team, because each team obviously has a different went a different way during the course of the trade deadline.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're not prospect people, so I don't really want to pretend to go through the prospects and be like, oh, this guy's a great prospect and got it. But let's talk more about strategy-wise in terms of how they're going to be useful in a redraft league for the major league players. I'm getting a phone call here, Ruvain. Hold on a second. Hi, this is Ariel Cohen. Yes? The New York Mets need a pitcher? What? What the heck? I'm just kidding.
They need
bullpen
bullpen help. They need bullpen help. They traded literally half of their bullpen, 4 relievers. They have to call up 4 separate relievers. They actually called up, from what my son told me, they're calling up Jeffrey Yan, that guy from the World Baseball Classic who always jumps around after he gets 1 strikeout. I guess that'll be entertaining, but I mean, this is, it's a very tough watch for the rest of the year.
Well, I'll tell you, we talked about on our show preseason Robert Stock for the Mets. And we said this guy is a guy to look at. Well, he started yesterday's game. I nearly went to it. And he was fantastic. I mean, he pitched 5 innings, 4 hits. He gave just 1 run. Sorry, 3 hits. 1 run, 4 strikeouts. I mean, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, he hit 97 on the radar gun, and that's coming out from thoracic outlet surgery, which is very impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. You think he's going to stick in the rotation for the rest of the season?
I don't think they have much of a choice.
Because
what this reminds me of is last year. Last year, the Minnesota Twins traded everybody off, and you know that this year the Minnesota Twins were buyers. So it can take just 1 year to turn it around. So have faith.
I tweeted out earlier, but if you had the Mets would be selling players to the White Sox, if you thought that preseason, we think
Pirates.
You're crazy.
And
White Sox
Pirates.
and Pirates. That is absolutely crazy. All right, we've got the Injury Gurus trivia at the top of the show. Here we go. I guess the trivia's for me.
Now, this has to do with the trade deadline and to talk about expectations and what to expect from these players that get traded. So I did a little research of a team that made a trade a couple of years ago, and this is what the player who was traded, the fan base, their reactions were. I took quotes. I found quotes from Twitter X and from YouTube as well of reactions of the team that traded the player away and their reaction to who they were getting in return. So these are the reactions, and you have to try to figure out what fan base is saying this. Okay? First one was, what the heck, my team is doomed. General manager, I don't want to give the general manager's name, but general manager, the most hated man in the city. Your table is ready. No wonder the team president left. This really sucks big time. We are falling apart. The team got back crap for him. Sad to see him go. He's so much fun to watch. We've just hit a bad year with too many free agents coming up after October. Sad thing is, it seems like we're getting so little for these guys. I am depressed. Worst day ever. I'm not watching any more of these games. Not at all. This was a great trade. Got better to believe that we gave up a 100 plus strikeout hitter and we placed him with a 300 average hitter. So, what fan base do you think made all these comments after a trade that was made during a trade deadline a few years ago?
I have no freaking idea, Ruvain.
Okay, well, I'll give you a hint. We had a guest on about 2 weeks ago, who was the general manager for the Mets. These comments were made about one of his trades.
It's my Pete Crow Armstrong?
That's right. And all those fans who I just mentioned, they were all Cubs fans about trading away Javi Baez for at the time the number 5 rated Mets prospect, which was PCA. So this is the initial reaction of on trade day at the trade deadline that that the Cubs fans were so upset about trading away one of their players, and they're saying they got crap in return. And now a couple years later, they look golden. So the main thing to take from this is that even if your team traded away a whole bunch of pieces, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You can do well afterwards, and you shouldn't give up on your team because you never know.
Yeah, it's hard to figure, when you're getting something. The Mets got, you said, 13 prospects. It's hard to know if they did well at this trade deadline because you won't see the results for a couple years to come. So that just keep that in mind. But the Mets obviously are going nowhere, and the Mets are. From the trades, are they giving up on next year? Also, it almost seems like it, right?
Yes, I think they are. I actually think they are, which is the fact that there's a lockout. That's why I said there's a lockout looming, and the fact that there may be a half a season next year. I think it may be the Mets trying to outsmart the market and trying to outsmart themselves and just cutting their losses for this year and next. That's my thought.
Brooks Raley seemed like he was going to be an extension candidate. Luke Weaver was obviously signed for next year, undervalued, and they traded him with money, so they're paying for half of next year's contract as well.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
It just seems that, if you told me the Mets don't believe they're playing next year, then great, But it seems like they're not even set for next year. It's very it's very depressing as a Mets fan to see them trade everything. The Mets are the 4th worst team in baseball now, but now they've gutted their team even more. They've got to be even worse, right?
Yeah, it's I can't picture myself going to any more games. Last Met game I went to was against the Dodgers because I wanted to see Ohtani. So the only reason why I probably, the next Met game I'll go to will probably be against the Baltimore Orioles because I'd want to see Pete Alonso. So I'm going to go.
Are they
to
playing
Mets
at
games
home or they're playing away?
They're playing at home. They're playing them at home. So that's probably where I'm going to go my next Mets. Well, because there's no point in otherwise. If I want to see the Mets play, I'll do what you're doing. Go travel to Syracuse. Go travel to Binghamton. The team will be just as good.
Or actually, maybe that team, with the Syracuse team, will come up and play for the Mets. My son's favorite player in the Mets remaining was Tyrone Taylor, so I haven't spoken to him yet, but he's going to be really upset. He's got a TT jersey.
Actually, one of the players they traded away was AJ Minter, and we'll start with the teams. We'll start with the Minnesota Twins. The Twins got AJ Minter, Jeff Hoffman, and Dean Kramer. So what are your thoughts on that?
So Jeff Hoffman, obviously, his fantasy value goes up. The question is he going to be the closer? Is he going to displace Yandris Gomez, or is he just going to be another arm?
Well, according to Roster Resource already, they have Jeff Hoffman sharing the closer duty already with Yandris Gomez, which is interesting, and they have AJ Minter as one of the primary setup men also. So right away, I think they've improved their bullpen, and we had the closer monkey himself on last week, and he said that the Twins are looking for a closer, and Jeff Hoffman I mentioned Jeff Hoffman, and he said yes, Jeff Hoffman, if he gets traded somewhere, maybe a closer. So I think this is exactly a perfect spot. This is the time. He's going to be a free. In most leagues, he is a free agent. You should pick him up. This is a clear, easy, no question. Don't even think about it. Just pick him up.
I've got Yandris Gomez in like 3 leagues. Am I picking up Hoffman also? I guess I have to.
Yes, and he's more valuable to
And
you
we'll have
than
a
to
couple
others.
of days before the Monday waivers. Although I am in one daily league with daily transactions, and I got Gomez. I guess I got to bid on Hoffman.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
you have to.
No
You have
choice,
to.
right?
I mean, they also got Dean Kramer, who slots in as the number 4 starter for their team already. So, the Twins are going for it, but not really. But that AL Central is not that great, so you never know.
Minter doesn't matter though. I mean, that's just a setup man. But
Yeah,
Hoffman's value goes up. Kramer's value is probably benign, probably the same.
Yes, yes.
All right, next team.
Next team, let's talk about the Red Sox, who made one of the biggest splashes. They got Adley Rutschman and Jake Rogers. They also picked up Eli White from the Braves and Eric Miller from the Giants. Those are smaller pieces. The main things are Adley Rutschman and Jake Rogers. They traded away Omar Narvaez, so I guess the Red Sox, because they've been so hot, they're going all in with they needed a catcher. Rutschman, he's injured right now. He will be coming back soon, which I'm going to get to in my injury update. But he's coming back soon, so I guess Jake Rogers right now will split time with Connor Wong, and after that, the Red Sox just improve. I mean, this makes them a threat in the AL East, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Adley's value probably improves slightly. It probably means that he's going to be healthy, otherwise they wouldn't trade for him.
Correct.
So they have faith in him. Yeah, I've got a lot of Adley Rutschman, so I think that improves.
The one thing I do know is that the Red Sox did pay a hefty price. I think they sent 2 of their top 5 or 6 prospects to Baltimore for him. So they really, from what I've seen so far, they've quote unquote overpaid. But like I mentioned at the top, you never know if you're overpaying until you get a couple of years down the road.
So you're doing this, Ruben put this list together for our rundown here. You're doing it by players, major league players acquired. That means that the Mets have nobody.
No, they have 0. They acquired no
Nobody.
major league talent. No, they acquired no major league talent. But they did send Brooks Raley, the next team, to the Phillies, which is interesting as a setup guy. But the main guy the Phillies got was Luis Ariz. And what that does is it shakes up the entire infield. They're going to be putting Alec Boehm at first, Luis Ariz at second, Bryson Stott is moving to third, and they're moving Bryce Harper to the outfield.
Yeah, I don't really believe that fully. I mean, he hasn't played outfield in such a long time. All of a sudden, they're going to put him in the outfield. I mean, Bryson Stott has been a little bit of a platoon player. I have to imagine he's going to do some platooning as well.
Well, Bryce Harper was already doing work in the outfield today, and he said it's for this year only. He said next year he's going back to first base. So they are going to do it.
I mean, they sort of had a little bit of a black hole in the outfield for the Phillies, so they got Arias to fill a hole. We'll sort out the positions, I guess. I mean, I like Arias' value in Philly. He's going to get on base. He's going to score a lot of runs. I mean, you imagine him batting ahead of Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper. He'll score a lot more runs. Arias' value goes up quite a bit.
Yes, it does.
And the thing is,
the Phillies just also brought up Brian De La Cruz, and he's been hitting. I think he loses playing time. A lot of people picked him up recently because he's been showing power, so he actually loses playing time in this situation. All right, so let's go to the next team. The next team we're going to talk about is the Padres, who always seem like they're buyers. Now, they're going against the Dodgers, the juggernaut Dodgers, and they picked up 2 starting pitchers, which is very interesting. They picked up Robbie Ray and Casey Mize. They also picked up Gage Workman in the deal for Casey Mize, but they're going starter heavy. I've never seen the Padres were hot right before the trade deadline. That's why they actually started going for it, and that's why they went for these 2 starters, because they needed to bulk up their starting pitching. I mean, they had Michael King, they have Herman Marquez, they have Walker Buehler, and then now they add Robbie Ray and Casey Mize. So if a little bit more legitimate, they'll probably put Randy Vasquez and JP Sears to the bullpen. Don't know how that's going to work. Griffin Canning's still in the mix also, but 2 of those, the 3 guys I just mentioned, Canning, Sears, or Vasquez, are probably going to lose playing time.
And they didn't trade any of their closers. They didn't trade Morejon, or they didn't trade Miller, so I guess they're still intact there, right?
Yeah, they're still intact. So if you did like we did, we picked up Morejon. I think he could be dropped in most leagues. There's really no reason to do anything there. And I guess the Padres just want to get into the series and have a chance against the Dodgers. And I guess the best way to do it is have pitching. And that's probably why they got Robbie Ray, who's a strikeout pitcher, and Casey Mize, who pitched in the playoffs last year. So you never know.
And the Blue Jays did some interesting things because they did trade away Kevin Gausman, but they did trade for some pitchers that had some more control beyond these years. Want to talk about what the Blue Jays did and who they
Yeah,
got?
they're very interesting because they traded away Dalton Varsho. They traded him to the Astros. They traded away Kevin Gausman, like you mentioned, but they traded for Jose Soriano. They traded for a currently injured Spencer Arrighetti. They traded for, I mean, a lower deal, Jameson Taillon. And they also traded with the Rangers to get the utility man Josh Smith. So they're playing not for this year, but they're looking ahead. And I don't know why more teams don't do this because if they find a player that's willing that has multiple years ahead, it's still available to them like Jose Soriano. Why would you not try to trade for him? Just because you're not in it doesn't mean you can't look for the future.
Yeah, I mean they basically said we're not in it this year, so we're going to trade all our rentals for long terms. They had to trade prospects. In the meantime, they got some for those. Different than like the Mets who just said fire sale, everybody must go. I mean, they looked like they were doing strategic things to set them up for the future.
I mean,
I sort of like their thought.
next year their top three pitchers will be Dylan Cease, Trey Savage, and Jose Soriano. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That for a top three, they're all set for next year. I think they're going to be well off, and you know it's the American. You're talking again. You're talking about the American League East. The American League East is quite tough. Speaking of the American League East, a team that who was a little bit more quiet than I thought they would be was the Yankees. They got Luis Garcia. That's a big bat. They got him from the Nationals. He's going to play second base, first base. I don't know yet. They're trying to figure that out. And they also got Heliot Ramos from the Giants. What do you think of those moves?
So Heliot Ramos, does that suggest that Judge is going to be shut down longer?
Yes, yes.
Right.
That's there. He hits left-handed pitching. He's a guy who their Yankees lineup beginning is very left-handed heavy anyway. So Ramos is just a righty because the Yankees left-handed hitters. They have Grisham who's a lefty, Ben Rice is a lefty, Spencer Jones is a lefty, Jazz Chisholm lefty. Ryan McMahon lefty, Austin Wells lefty. That's like their whole lineup. So they needed a right-handed bat. So they got the right-handed bat, but he's going to be a platoon guy. But because Judge is going to be out for a while, and they don't even know when he's going to come back. I mean, I think he's going to get the same amount of playing time he got in San Francisco because he's a platoon guy.
I mean, Ramos's value has got to go up a little bit, being in the Yankees lineup and ballpark. I mean, San Francisco not a great situation, I guess. Luis Garcia,
He's
yeah, I mean,
interesting.
I mean, the Nationals were scoring a lot of runs, and he was hitting, homers and a lot of RBIs. So I don't know if it can get better than his situation was. Although short right porch and good lineup for the Yankees, I'm gonna say a wash for Garcia value wise. Ramos goes up though.
Well, I mean, a wash. He's a lefty and he's playing at Yankee Stadium. So is that? I don't know if he
Well,
may
yeah,
get a slight upgrade. For that short porch.
yeah, but he
But
was
the question,
overplaying as he was, right?
but
Yeah.
he was. But at the same point, they put him at first base. In his first game, he's playing first base tonight. I don't know how. Do you know how many games he's ever played at first base before?
At least, I mean, he qualified at first base for the season, so he's at least 20, right?
But this was I believe this was the first year he played at first base. Last year he played 2 games at first base, so he's not a natural first baseman. So the Yankees are actually losing in their fielding while they're getting they're getting a bat, but I guess they needed a bat, so that's probably why they did it. Okay, now we're gonna move to Cleveland because Cleveland. I heard Cleveland rocks. That's what Drew Carey used to say. They made a couple of splashes. They picked up a couple of hitters. They got Joe Adell and Nathaniel Lowe, and they also got another national. They got Foster Griffin, which is interesting because Foster Griffin just came back from I think it was KBO, and now he's being a trade fodder to the Guardians, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Adell was a prospect that sort of bloomed pretty late. Very high expectations. Finally came at the end. Are the Guardians going for it? I mean, these seem like incremental moves.
Well, the Guardians are
Helps
only
them.
3 game. They're only 3 games out of first, so it's not like they're
Yeah,
so far out of first, and they're in the wild card race. So they needed some more offense. They can never have too much offense, and I think this is just them pushing the envelope a little bit, and they got Nate Lowe who can play first base. He's a lefty hitter. He can switch off with Rhys Hoskins. So he's going to be a part-time player. He's not going to be a full-time, but he's is the positive side of the platoon. So I think that's a win. And Joe Adell is a power hitter. This team is not necessarily known for power. I mean, who has the most? I can't even tell you who has the most home runs on the. I mean, I guess Jose Ramirez has the most home runs on the Guardians at this point. But I mean,
How's
who's
Manzardo
second?
doing? Manzardo?
Manz- um, let's see. That's a good question. I don't see Manzardo here. Let's see. Unless they, I don't think they sent him down. Yeah, actually, they did send him down.
They sent him down?
According to roster resources, he's in the minors, which doesn't make
Oh,
any
is that
sense
because
to
of
me.
the trade? 'Cause
Probably.
They got Nate Lowe.
He had 13 home runs this year. So Nate Lowe is, I think it's a wash, but you're getting probably a higher batting average guy. So I guess that's probably why they did it. I guess, but I don't know. Manzardo's actually optioned today because of the trade.
Because of the trade.
Because of the trade.
Was Manzardo the top home run hitter on the team? Yes, he
Um,
is. Yes,
I-
he was. Yes, he was.
So
13.
they optioned the top home run hitter to bring in Joe Adell, who's a home run hitter, and the guy who makes
Nate
up
Lowe.
some of that. So that's probably why they did that.
There you go.
I
Now
mean, it makes sense.
The Mariners have they traded away some pitching. They traded away Luis Castillo. I know they were looking to trade some other pitchers, but they ended up acquiring Taylor Ward, who goes back to the AL West. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think this is the Orioles just selling. I think they just felt that Taylor Ward wasn't a fit for them. So
Yeah, he was
I
doing
think
terrible.
I think
What a bad year.
yeah, and maybe going to that lineup out west will help a little bit. Maybe just a change of scenery should help. But I mean, another team that sold off a lot of his pieces was Baltimore, and they had high hopes also. It's very interesting how the season starts and then all of a sudden the hopes get stopped and then they start trading away pieces you actually got this year, which sometimes makes sense, sometimes doesn't make sense.
The Dodgers got backup catcher or minors catcher from the Mets, Ben Rohrvert. They only made. I thought they would go a little bit bigger, but they didn't make that many trades other than the Skubal trade. Do you find that puzzling? They didn't,
Not
right?
not at all.
Did they go, I mean, it didn't look like they went all in today. Obviously, they had the Skubal splash. They also got Chris Bubik today, but they didn't really go for any hitters. I would have thought they would have made an even bigger splash and gotten another hitter. No.
Well, if you look at that lineup, I mean they're
Well, it's a
going
good
to. I mean they just put Dalton Rushing on the IL with elbow inflammation, and they have Will Smith on the IL also. So they needed the catcher. That's why they did that. So
Yes.
but their lineup: Shohei Ohtani, he's an all-star. Andy Pages, all-star. Freddie Freeman, all-star. Max Muncy, all-star. Mookie Betts, all-star. Kyle Tucker, former all-star. Why do you need another bat? Who are you sitting? You're not going to sit anybody. There's nobody there to sit, and they made their big
Damn.
splash. They got Tarek Skubal, exactly. They got Tarek Skubal, and they didn't need to make a trade for a closer because they just got Edwin Diaz back from injury.
Right.
So I think they did exactly what was expected, as opposed to the Cubs, who really, really were aggressive. They got Clay Holmes from the Mets along with Tyrone Taylor, who's a backup outfielder. They got Braxton Garrett, the leading saves leader for the Angels, Ryan Jefferson, and Ryan Jefferson, and they got Kevin Gausman. So the Cubs are really pushing all in here. I think this. They think it's this year or not. I think they're just going all in this year.
Yeah. I mean, the Cubs are they in a wild card spot right now? Yeah. I mean, the Brewers are in the first place. I think they're in a wild card spot, right?
Yes, yeah. At this point, they are, and the Cubs went to get the two guys from the Mets, Tyrone Taylor and Clay Holmes. They traded their number 2 prospect, who, when he came to the Mets system, automatically became the Mets' number 1 prospect. So they paid a steep price, and a lot of people, from what I hear so far, thinks the Cubs overpaid, which would be nice. Maybe get them back for the PCA trade, but they think they overpaid for Clay Holmes and for Tyrone Taylor, but. When you go for it, I guess you got to be all in or not. You can't be, half in, half out. I guess, right?
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, from all the people on Twitter and everything that some of the Mets trades that they have made were overpays by the other. Some I heard were slight underpays. I mean, I'm not a prospect guy. We'll have on a prospect guy probably in a couple of weeks to talk about. I'm sure we'll ask him what the haul that the Mets got is and what they think about it. But
But
yeah, no, the
but
Cubs the
but
Cubs going for it.
but the one interesting thing I would look for is whether or not Ryan Jefferson actually becomes the closer. That's a possibility. And
Mm.
what are the Cubs going to do for their starting rotation? They now have Matthew Boyd, Javier Assad, Shoto Imanaga. They have David Peterson, who they got from the Mets. They have Colin Ray and Kevin Gausman. That's six starters. Are they going to go with a six-man rotation? Who do you think is going to be the odd man out there?
Assad
Oh,
will be the long reliever.
and Edward Cabrera is on his way back from injury. He's doing a rehab rotation right
Sounds
now.
like a good problem to have.
And I didn't mention Clay Holmes, who's coming back later this week also.
Yeah,
just got.
it's a good problem to have. They're just like, let's load up on people and shuffle it there. Yeah.
So what I'm assuming, and I picked up this guy. I picked up this guy in a couple leagues this week. It was Javier Assad. I think he's going to be out. I think Colin Ray is
Yeah.
going to be out. I think David Peterson will probably be the long guy in the bullpen. I think that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, Peterson
and
will be there. Yeah.
yeah. So I think the five they're going to go with will be Boyd, Imanaga, Gaussman, Edward Cabrera, and Clay Holmes, which is a pretty good five.
Isn't
there.
that two of the 5 Mets starters to begin the year on their team now?
Yes,
Holmes and,
yes. Unfortunately, yes. Speaking of Mets starters, another Mets starter was traded to the Rays, and that's Freddie
Yeah.
Peralta. The Rays also got Liam Hicks,
That's
which
big
I was
one. Big one.
I was a little surprised.
I mean, that's
surprised they did
that's
that.
where the Rays can really gain. They really have a good catcher, and all of a sudden now they've got a great hitting catcher. I mean, I like what the Rays did. I mean, Freddie Peralta, I don't know if they overpaid for him, but they at least got somebody they think they can probably do better than the Mets did with him. Maybe he can turn it around, and I like the Hicks. I thought Hicks was very, very good trade, at least from the MLB side.
Yes, and I would say normally for the Rays, Tyler Wells may slide in to get some saves, but because of how well the Rays closer is doing this year, I don't think he's going to slide in. So I think if you had him on your roster to get saves for the Orioles, I think he's a clear drop. I think Tyler Wells is a drop at this point.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about relievers, the Pirates went for it because the Pirates are, I think, a game and a half out at this point. They got Luke Weaver from the Mets, they got Camilo Doval from the Yankees, and they got Kirby Yates. So my question to you is, who is the closer in Pittsburgh?
Well, I think Gregory Soto and Mason Montgomery now does not become the closer, or at least they lose quite a lot because they're lefties. To me, the top of the pile here has got to be Luke Weaver based on how he's pitching this year. I mean, he's been lights out, right? I mean,
Yes.
Yates is a veteran, so he'll slot in for middle reliever duty, but I have to imagine it's Weaver. I mean, if you had Weaver in your team, kudos. Otherwise, he's an instant pickup, I think. Would you rather pick up Luke Weaver or would you rather pick up Jeff Hoffman right now?
Um,
I think it's Weaver for me.
I think it's Weaver because
I mean, Weaver's having so much of a better year than Hoffman, so just on the stats alone.
According to Roster Resource, Weaver, Soto, and Montgomery are set to split closer duties, but like you mentioned, the two lefties, it's not going to happen. I think the setup man for the Mets has become the closer for the Pirates.
Yeah, I think there's a better chance that Weaver gets more saves than Hoffman rest of the year and has better stats. I think Weaver is the better pick.
But remember, Hoffman has had a good recent couple of months.
Yeah.
Actually, he
Let's
has
say,
bounced back.
Look, we'll find out a little bit more for people who have waivers on Sunday evening. But if I'm in a daily league in Tout Wars tomorrow, and I gotta say, all right, take a stab at a closer, and I've got one roster spot to do it with, is it Weaver or is it Hoffman?
Yeah, I'm going Weaver. I'm going Weaver on that. I'm going Weaver. Now, if you want to stick in the NL Central, the Brewers, they made incremental changes, a little bit here, a little bit there on the edges. They get Antonio Senzatella. Senzatella. I completely botched that up. But this name I can't botch up. Dustin May, that's an easy one. Jojo Romero and Bo Naylor. Dustin May slots right into the rotation, I believe. Jojo Romero slots right in also. I don't think there's much change in fantasy value. I mean, does Dustin May get a little boost going to the NL Central? I guess.
Is he starting? I mean, better team, more chance of a win.
Well,
Uh,
the back three starters for the Brewers are Shane Drohan, Robert Gasser, and Dustin May. So I think Dustin May is going to get one of those spots.
yeah. I guess May's value goes up slightly. Everybody else stays the same.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And one thing, if you haven't seen us on social media, it's always interesting when one team is playing another and they trade players with each other. I mentioned before, Dalton Varsho was traded to the Astros. They're playing each other today, and he had to walk from one clubhouse to the other today, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Dalton Varsho to the Astros. What do you think of his playing time?
Well, the trading for him got to go up, I think, right?
I mean, I would assume so, considering he's batting. He's playing tonight for in his first game already with the new team.
Where's he batting in the lineup?
Clean up.
Okay, so yeah, I mean he goes way up. He's now going to have Jordan Alvarez to knock in, Jeremy Pena to knock in, Isaac Paredes, Christian Walker's there for protection. What about Jose Altuve? Better lineup, better situation, yeah. And Varsha's a good fielder, so he'll get the playing time. So yes, this is an increase for Varsha. His value goes up.
So do you think this one move the Astros made right now? The Astros have a 2.5 game lead in the division over the Rangers. Rangers didn't really do that much. They traded some people away. We talked about the Mariners were 3 games out. Do you think that this is the Astros division to lose at this point?
I think it's tight. The question is why don't teams go for more? I mean, if you're going to go for it, and you're in first place or you're close to first place or whatever, why not go for it? I don't know. I guess they don't have the farm system to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they saw they can probably make the playoffs, and just making the playoffs is revenue right there.
And
So
Tetsuya Imai was already demoted from the bullpen. Devoted to the bullpen, so they could have used another starter, maybe.
yeah, I guess, but I mean, they also have the guy Tang who may be called up from the minors, so it's not completely desperate out there yet, and I think they can try to patch it together. And the AL West is not that great, especially because Seattle did trade away players and they didn't bring that many people back. And so and they're not worried about the Angels and not worried about the Athletics. So I think they have the division wrapped up, and they're hoping that there's a crapshoot in the playoffs and see what happens.
Okay.
Next team. Now I brought up this guy because he's the only guy the San Francisco Giants actually acquired who may have some fantasy value. Not yet, but probably later in the season. That's Marcelo Mayer. That's the only guy I can see
Still like
here.
Prospect status, right?
Yes, he does. He does. I mean, they did trade away a couple big pieces, so I think. I mean, they're a bad team. The Giants are a bad team. They're not really going anywhere. They traded Luis Ariz. I'm sure they tried to trade other ones like Devers.
I was going to say, are you surprised that the Giants didn't trade Logan Webb today?
No, I think I think he's a staple out there. So I didn't think they would get traded. Robbie Ray, I understand getting traded. But I think Logan Webb is like a institution there right now. He's their guy.
Say what you would about the Mets, but they sort of said, all right, well, we're either buyers or sellers. Well, we're sellers. Let's just clear everybody. I mean, the analytics guy in me says that you pick one and you go with it and you just do everything. Just, if you're going to sell Robbie Ray but not Webb, what are you doing? Just sell everybody.
But this is the whole thing.
I'm asking hypothetically.
No, and I think hypothetically, what David Stearns for the Mets were thinking, he doesn't like signing players for more than 1 or 2 years, and that's his mentality. So he's able to do this type of thing, so he can just recycle players again and just find the next Clay Holmes like he did, or to find the next Luke Weaver who can give him value. And if the team does well, great. If he doesn't, then he gets players back in return. I think that's what the Giants did. But I think look at their division. The Padres traded for people. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. The Giants don't have a chance. It's the Giants. So they have to look for the future.
Right.
And speaking of the future, the White Sox. The White Sox, they traded for Luis Castillo. They traded for Joey Bart. They got another bullpen piece from the Mets, Huascar Brazoban, and they also traded for Brenton Doyle, which is interesting.
Ticket.
What do you think? That's exactly what it is. So what do you think the White Sox did? How do you think the White Sox did? And do you think any of those guys worth thinking, considering to pick up or anything? If Luis Castillo is available, is he going to be a full-time starter in that rotation? What do you think?
Oh, so I mean, I think that the White Sox did some low-level acquisitions just to bolster their team. They didn't go all in, but they took a positive stance. They didn't just stand by. I think Doyle is a lottery ticket, or it's a ticket maybe. He's got upside. Bart was probably for the catching just to shore up. Brazoban was a help for the bullpen. Luis Castillo, a help for the rotation. Yes, he's going to stick. He's been pitching much better as of late, and he was to bolster the rotation, and he cost less than some of the other starters on the market, so that's why they did it. So they basically, you can choose a lane to go in. You can choose the top lane for the top people. You can choose a middle lane, the bottom lane. They sort of went somewhere middle-ish, the White Sox, middle-bottom, just to fill roles. I think I like what they did. I mean, I don't know how to compare them versus the the prospects in terms of excess value, but I like the strategy.
So if you have an opportunity to buy quote unquote low on Luis Castillo now, would you, if you're in a fantasy league, would you try to trade for him because he's moving from the AL West to the AL Central? Do you think that makes a difference?
I mean, I think Luis Castillo. Look, the ATC projections had him way higher, and he's been underperforming. And if you look at his numbers, they're very tainted from the first month of the season. So he's one of those guys that have been getting better every single month. So, yeah, he's probably undervalued. Will I think that he's much higher than what we perceive? Probably not. But, yeah, I mean, he's a buy versus a sell, if that's the question.
And speaking of buying, the Braves, there are a couple guys that I like a lot there that may be available in the waiver wire for your teams. And the Braves got Tyler Mahle, which is interesting, Lane Thomas, which is interesting, Bailey Falter, not as interesting, and Brent Suter, not as interesting. But what do you think of the Braves getting Tyler Mahle and Lane Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very similar thing to what the White Sox did, and the Braves do this very well, is they get pieces that they think can help them. Again, not going for top, not going for bottom, but just pieces that they think. Mahle, they didn't want to spend that big on a starter, but they want to walk away with somebody, and so similar to Castillo, they got Mahle, who's been looking good. Lane Thomas is a help. That's a spot. Falter, another bolster. So, I mean, they're looking to go in that lane. They're doing very similar things to the White Sox. I like the strategy. Somebody will work out with them, and they didn't really give up much, did they? I mean, they're going low here.
No, they didn't have to give up much, and also remember they still have a 7.5 game lead over the Phillies. So
Just
they,
help.
they didn't
Just
really
get
have
help.
to.
Just a little bit of help.
They just helped on the fringes and get a backup outfielder, get a guy who can eat innings in the middle of the rotation because they did just put Reynaldo Lopez on the IL. So they do need a little more of an innings eater. So
yeah,
I
they
guess
had
that's
needs.
what Tyler Mahle is.
They had needs, so they got some fills. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and let's throw these last couple teams together because I'm not sure the directions they were going. The Diamondbacks got Lars Nootbaar, the Marlins got Victor Vodnik, and I have to throw in the Rockies because we never talk about the Rockies. The Rockies got Connor Norby. Any interest in any of those guys? Because those guys, I assume the playing times will go up. Do you think Victor Vodnik is going to be the closer now for the Marlins? Is he going to supplant Pete Fairbanks?
No.
You don't think so?
Fairbanks has had an up and down year, but Vodnik, I can't imagine that supplanting him.
Okay, I thought it was just interesting that the Marlins would trade away Luis Garcia, then trade for a reliever, which it doesn't really.
Is Vodnik even going to be an eighth inning consideration? I don't even think so. I don't even think so. No, the answer is no interest in Vodnik whatsoever.
I think he's a middle guy. I think he's a fifth, sixth, or seventh inning guy. I think that's it. So, and Lars Nootbaar to the Diamondbacks, does that help his value at all?
I mean, Nootbaar did have a terrible year so far, so can't get worse.
I guess he steps right into left field. I mean, I guess they don't really have anyone there, so.
I'm not sure it increases his value. I think it's a wash. It's a wash.
Okay. I think it's a wash, and I agree with you. And also Connor Norby to the Rockies.
Okay,
any interest in that talking? Is that interest to you?
Well, Norby now goes from a bad hitting ballpark to a good hitting ballpark. Is he going to make the major league roster though? Because he was in AAA, wasn't he?
He was in AAA, but I mean Connor Norby, I guess they, I mean, the Rockies need help everywhere. And Connor Norby used to be one of the top prospects for Baltimore, so I guess they're banking on that.
I mean, obviously he's got more fantasy value today, being that he was in AAA anyways. So sure, but I mean, what league are you picking up Connor Norby in? I guess in an NL only league, maybe. Yeah, I guess. That's it.
guess.
In 15-team mix, are you picking up Connor Norby? I'm not.
No, I don't think so.
So,
oh, and by the way, I mentioned all these teams. There was one team, I think one. I haven't found. Let me. I can go through the list again. But there's one team that I didn't. I think there are two. Was there two? I may be wrong. One or two teams that I did not mention making any trades at all.
Oh, who are the teams that did make trades? Let's see.
Could you figure that out?
Well, who do we talk about? The Reds?
The Reds didn't make any trades, which is interesting because you think they would. Think AL
Royals?
Central. Royals did not make any trades. The Royals not make any trades.
Athletics?
Athletics did not make any trades.
That's weird. I mean, aren't they sunk for the year, the Athletics? They're terrible.
Yes. But,
why wouldn't they make any trades?
Because
I don't have any talent?
Would your team want Jeff McNeil?
Well, I mean, right. I mean, they probably have young guys that are signed or controllable, that is. Yeah, I mean, McNeil is not going to get anything from anybody, so
no. And are they going to give up on Lawrence Butler and trade him? Are they going to trade Tyler Soderstrom? I don't think so. I think they're just going to stand pat because they're going to have a new stadium and they have a very good minor league system. They got a lot of guys coming up soon.
They're not trading Wilson, Galoff, Nick Kurtz. They're not trading any of those guys. So no, I guess they went nowhere. Is anybody in the rotation that could have helped anybody? No.
There's nobody in the rotation.
Jeffrey
nobody.
Spring? Maybe Jeffrey Spring. Somebody take a shot, but he's nah.
And
Severino?
And would someone have traded for Hogan Harris?
I guess maybe that was a possibility.
That was probably the only thing.
Harris,
but I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, those three teams, nothing was done. I don't. One thing I don't understand is the Reds. The Reds could have made a move, been a little bit more aggressive, because I know they're in last place and I know they're in dead last. I understand that, but their team, they have a lot of good parts. And if
could they have gotten something from Eugenio Suarez?
Yes. Could they have gotten some? I mean, why not trade Eugenio Suarez back to Seattle? I'm sure he would have gone.
I mean, you're not going to trade Ellie De La Cruz. You're not going to trade Sal Stewart. But Suarez, they could have gotten something for. Maybe Noel Marte, unless they believe in him. Brian Hayes.
You could have got something from J.J. Bleday for a power-hitting lefty.
Yeah, they weren't going to trade like Hunter Green, but Emilio Pagan, he would have been useful.
Or even trading an older pitcher like Brady Singer. And they could have sent somebody, but they stood pat,
weird.
which is very interesting. But every GM, just like in fantasy, every GM has their own idea of what's good, and sometimes you just want to stay pat, and sometimes staying pat is the right thing to do, sometimes it's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear each team's philosophy. Maybe the general managers will speak after and say their philosophy. I know David Stearns, the Mets, giving a press conference like right around now, but good to know some of their thoughts. I don't know if they're all going to give it, but yeah, everyone has their own philosophy, and you can pretty much dissect each of them and see what they're doing.
Yeah, but I think it was just very interesting how certain teams went about it, how certain teams just went after relievers, certain teams went after just starting pitchers, and certain teams did a combination of everything. It's sort of like a fantasy team. Sometimes you want that, you need to save, so you just go after that. Sometimes you need a complete overhaul, like the Cubs get so many players. So you never know. Being a general manager is very similar to being a fantasy manager.
All right, so if you're in a mixed league, what is the strategy for this waiver wire? Obviously, we talked about the two possible closers, Weaver and maybe Hoffman. Any other closers to pick up? I don't think so.
I don't. Weaver, yeah, no, I don't think anyone else. Maybe there's a chance that Ryan Zefferjon closes for the Cubs. Maybe. Because he can't have stuff if he stops walking so many people. So that's a possibility. But otherwise, closer-wise, I don't think there's.
And other hitter values, I guess Heliot Ramos, I'd say, is interesting to me for some better offensive numbers. Anybody else would be worth now going for, trading away? Lane Thomas, maybe.
I think if you're in a trading league and buy low on Taylor Ward, maybe just a change of scenery.
Taylor Ward is
A
interesting.
change of scenery may do something for him. I
Luis
really
Arias. Luis Arias is now
Luis, yeah,
a little bit more valuable. Yeah.
yes, but yeah. Actually, Lane Thomas loses some value because he's like the fourth or fifth outfielder there.
Oh,
now, so
he'll
Lane
go to
Thomas will
platoon, I
lose.
guess. Right,
Yeah.
right. He'll lose value. Sorry, I misspoke. That is true.
Yeah,
That is
so
true.
but but this was one of the more eventful. With not no major. I mean, you had the major Tarek School that was over the weekend, but no major stuff at the last second. So it was an interesting trade deadline.
Well, we hope that this episode has caught you up on all the deals. Again, we'll hopefully have a prospect guy in a couple of weeks, but we figure we just give you our quick reactions to some of the major league players being traded and going through the whole day. And I guess Ruvain organized this in not by trade, but more of by team and what they were all acquiring. So sounds good. And I think the only thing left to do is some injury analysis. Ruvain.
Yes. So I'll start with Clay Holmes, who we talked about already. His last start that he had was in High A Brooklyn for the Mets. He went 5 innings, so which means he is built up, he is ready to go. So Clay Holmes will probably be activated from the IL by the Cubs, probably by the end of the week, with Edward Cabrera also doing a rehab assignment, who may be activated as well. We mentioned Adley Rutschman. He's on the IL since July 20th with left wrist inflammation. He resumed hitting over the weekend. He was expected to start a rehab assignment this week, so it's possible that he may make his debut for the Red Sox either over the weekend or the beginning of next week. I mentioned Reynaldo Lopez. They think his IL stint will be minimal. How for his knee, he had no structural damage going on. However, he may have lost his rotation spot because of the acquisition of Tyler Mahle. Spencer Arrighetti, who I mentioned, also has a foot injury. He may come back some point in August. He has a right foot nerve irritation. He may come back sometime in August. That's just something to watch for. Maybe the Blue Jays want to pitch him once or twice just to see. I don't think they'll shut him down. Jojo Romero, who was traded to the Brewers, it was on the IL because he had an emergency appendectomy in mid-July. Obviously, he has very little value if he's not a closer. If you want to have a middle reliever, the Brewers, they tend to use their middle relievers quite well. And if it's a good team, if you want to vulture some wins, you could probably do it that way. And the Dodgers got Chris Bubich. Chris Bubich. I'm not sure why. They have plenty of starting pitching. Blake Snell is coming back from the IL. Tyler Glasnow is going to be back on the IL. And Bubich is rehabbing for his injury, for a shoulder/elbow. He had a couple issues going on. From what I hear, he's only been throwing now from flat ground at about 80 feet last week. I don't think he's going to have enough time to stretch out as a starter. So if he does come back, Bubich will probably be back as a reliever. So that's something to watch out for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Ruvain, what's going on with you? Where can we see your stuff?
You can follow me on Twitter, X, at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet out injury updates as they come. And I did tweet out some of these trades as well, because some of them had people hitting the IL when the trades actually went through. So
the Mets have promoted Dedniel Nunez, Jeffrey Yan, Nate Lavender.
Dedniel Nunez is off of the IL, I think.
There you go.
He was on the IL.
Chase McDermott, Xavier Curry, Christian Pache are now all Major League New York Mets. We promoted 6 of them. Wow!
And if you want to see the Mets play the Brewers at Citi Field, right now the cheapest ticket is $7 on August 26th.
$7 with a $15 StubHub fee, and with parking costing $50, and you buy a hot dog for $40, and you're still spending a lot of money, even though the ticket's just $7.
Yes, but it's always good when you can laugh about it, because we're at the point where we're like, they're done. That's it.
Ruvain, I'm going to the Mets game in 2 weeks with my company. I think that might be the last Met game. Unless Robert Stock pitches. I almost went yesterday.
Who are they playing?
Playing the Padres when I go.
So you're going to see the Padres, you're not going to see the Mets.
Well,
There you go. You get to see Mason. Maybe you'll see Mason Miller.
Are you gonna watch? Are you gonna watch fewer games now? I mean, I haven't been watching that as many games as I usually do this year. It's so sad, Ruve. Sorry to lament to the audience here, but we're just gonna get worse. We've just made our team worse after this.
Yes, we have, but we did replenish our farm system a little bit. You have to think of the positive there. I'm hoping they call up Clifford. He's their top
Clifford.
first base Ryan Clifford. He's their top first base prospect. I would like to see him play instead of Jorge Polanco, who has. Oh my gosh, the Mets got 13 prospects in the trade deadline this year. Jorge Polanco has 14 hits this year.
What did I see? Jorge Polanco's batting average is lower this year than Jim Abbott's career batting average. I saw something like that on Twitter.
Yes, and that was a good replacement for Pete Alonso. That worked out well.
No. No. Boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it for us. I'm Ariel Cohen on Twitter, X at ATCNY. I will have a projections update hopefully by the end of the week. If not, it'll be early next week. It takes a couple of days for systems to gather, and then it takes a couple of days for me after that. This is going to be the biggest update, obviously, because a lot of players are changing venues and situations. So it will be a meaningful rate stats update soon. So look out for that, and I'll tweet it from the ATC Projections handle on Twitter X. All right, Ruvain. Thanks so much for joining the show again. Great talking with you.
Yeah, great talking, and I hope everyone's trade worked out the way they wanted to.
There we go. All right, from all of us here at Beat the Shift, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.